Welcome to government. Here are our functions of government notes. So in this unit, we're going to define systems of government based on who can participate, identify ways power can be distributed geographically within a state, and describe a government by the distribution of power between legislative and executive branches. So again, the first thing is, what does your government do for you? I know a lot of you as maybe uh, teenagers and seniors, you think that the police just stop kids all the time and that's all they do. Well, that is not true. It's not. Our government does not only go after teenagers by any means. So there's a lot of things our government does. First of all, they provide services. Okay, maybe think about some of the services they provide to us. Maybe in your head, a couple examples here: roads, parks. These are two examples of providing the services for us. They clean the parks for us. They just put in a new playground at Kimberly Park. They take care of our roads. Whether in the wintertime, they maintain those. In the spring, with all the potholes, they're around filling all those. So that is definitely uh, the city government doing that. Obviously, here in West Liberty, and then we're going to talk about the state government doing that as well, like on the maybe Highway 6 or X40, something like that. And then you talk about the federal government as well. Okay. They raise revenue. How do they raise revenue? Well, they raise them by taxes and fees. First main one is your income tax. They're raising that revenue to provide those services. That's why they have to tax us. Fees is another example. For example, I like to go camping. So if I go camping at a state park, then I have to pay a fee to put my camper there. Okay, that helps maintain those parks and those campsites. They maintain foreign relations. They made treaties with us. They made trade agreements. A big one that President Trump was all about when he was running for president in 2016 was he wanted to get rid of NAFTA, or the North American Free Trade Agreement, and he held true to that promise. That was free trade between Mexico, the United States, and Canada. He got rid of that. He made new trade agreements separately with Canada and with Mexico. They do provide order and security. Again, that's why we have laws and police. Our government, whether it's the federal government or the state government or the city government, they make laws for us that we have to abide by. Maybe the city one, if you can't ride your skateboard in the downtown sidewalks. I know that was a big one a few years ago. But that's laws that they maintain for us to provide that order and that security. Police, same thing. They're providing that security for us, and they're maintaining that we abide by the laws and provide representation. They do that with elections, and we just had the 2020 election, and we get to provide that representation for us, and then we elect those people. So our government does a lot of things. So how do we classify our government? Well, there's a lot of definitions here, so we're going to have to go through those here real quick. I'm going to give you an example for each one. I want you to know one of these examples, write one of them down. So the first definition I want you to know is anarchy. Anarchy is a society with no government. There is um, no government or no country with anarchy right now. You can maybe argue that Afghanistan, maybe in certain parts there may be anarchy there. Maybe Syria as well, but nothing really to give an example about. And dictatorship is a government run by one person that controls the military. Examples of this would be Saddam Hussein, Fidel Castro, and Muammar Gaddafi from Libya. So these would have been examples of dictatorships where government is run by this one person that has control of the military. That's a little bit different from fascism. Fascism is a right-wing government that is a one-party dictatorship and that glorifies the leader. The Nazis in World War II would be an example of this. And how do I say this? Well, the Nazi Party was in control of Germany in the 1930s. That's the party, okay, the Nazi Party. Now, what they did was they had a dictator that glorified the leader, and that was Adolf Hitler. Okay. Oligarchy is headed by a small group of people who has clout. Saudi Arabia would be an example of this. The Spartans would be an example of this. The Spartans had a triumvirate back in ancient Greece. They had three people basically that were in charge of the Spartan city-state. Monarchy is run by a king or queen who shares power with parliament. King Abdullah is Jordan. of Jordan right now would be an example of that. Why not Great Britain? Everybody says, "Oh, why not Great Britain? They're a monarchy." Well, kind of. They're more run by Parliament now. The Queen there is more of just a figurehead at this point. Democracy is government by the people. Two examples here I want to give you, or two different types here. Indirect democracy. This is where people elect representatives to make decisions. This is going to be where the example of the United States is an example of this. We elect people to go to Washington or go to Des Moines to make decisions for us. We can't go on and make decisions by ourselves all the time. A direct democracy then is people make decisions themselves. Majority rules. This is still seen in a little bit of some New England townships on the East Coast, smaller towns, obviously. Um, and this is where every decision that's made, the people have to go in and they have to make those decisions all the time. Think about why the indirect democracy might be better for us. If you think about your days or your parents' days and how busy they are, it'd be tough for you to go to a meeting twice a month to decide all these different things. That's why we elect these representatives, the city council, to make decisions for us. We elect school board to make decisions for us. So those are definitely indirect democracy examples, as well as you have your state government where you have your Iowa state legislature, you have the federal government, federal government and their legislature. All right, geographic distribution of power. We're going to talk about federalism. Federalism is a big thing here. Federalism is power divided between central government and local governments. And it has a division of powers. So as power is divided, obviously that's federalism. The United States is the best example of this. Other examples would be Australia, Canada, Mexico, Germany, and India. Unitary. This is power held in one central government. Most of governments in the world are unitary in form. Great Britain is a great example of this. A big knock on this would be they're very limited in powers. Okay. For example, there's no, if you're in Great Britain, basically they're governing the entire part of Great Britain, but they don't know what's going on in the local villages and local towns in England. A confederate type of government. This is an alliance or loose alliance of independent states. Very limited powers here for confederate government. We've had two in our United States history. The first one was the Articles of Confederation in 1781 to 1789. Again, this is where they broke away from Great Britain. They formed their own government. They called it the Articles of Confederation. And this was basically a very loose alliance of independent states. They didn't want a strong, powerful central government. They wanted more state governments. So that's why they have the Articles of Confederation. We'll talk more about that in Unit 2. The Confederate States of America, this was during the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Again, the southern states rebelled, broke away from the Union, called themselves the Confederate States of America. They were also Confederation. And we'll talk more about this in the Constitution and stuff, but basically they were very, very limited in their power and what they could do. So here is the levels of government. I do want you to know these. Again, here in we have federal government here, okay? And again, federalism is where power is divided. Notice the power is divided between the federal, the state, and the local government, okay? So we'll go through each one of these. The federal government, that's the President of the United States. Right now it's President Trump. President-elect Joe Biden will take over January 20th, okay? The legislative branch, sorry, I have the levels up here, and then the branches, the three branches, executive, legislative, judicial, and how they get their financing or how they raise revenue. Okay? The legislative branch for our federal government is the U.S. Congress, otherwise known as the U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives. Okay? We elect people to those. The judicial branch is the U.S. Supreme Court. If you paid attention in first try, maybe in September and October, President Trump nominated Amy Coney Barrett to the U.S. Supreme Court, and she was then confirmed to that, so she was added up there in October. And there are 9 Supreme Court justices. Source of financing here, how does our federal government raise revenue? Income tax. Okay, when you get your paycheck and you see the federal income tax is They're taking their income tax out of your paycheck. Okay. So again, that's the federal government. Now, power is divided, as I said, in a federal government. So the state government is run by the governor. Maybe you know who the governor is right now. The governor's been on the news quite a bit. Kim Reynolds. She's a Republican right now. The legislative branch is the Iowa Congress. We have the Iowa House and the Iowa Senate residing in Des Moines. The judicial branch is the Iowa Supreme Court. And our source of financing is the state income tax. So again, you have the federal income tax coming out of your check, and you have a state income tax coming out of your check. Right? In the local part here, local level, this is going to be West Liberty. Okay, you have your mayor. Okay, maybe you know your mayor is Bob Hartman. Okay, here in West Liberty. City council. Again, we elect these people to make decisions for us in our city. Okay, the magistrate's court would be the county court in Muscatine, and the source of financing for West Liberty would be property taxes. So when you buy a home or you own land, own farm ground, you are paying property taxes, and that is how our local government gets their money to repair roads and so on and so forth. Okay, state income tax, how the state gets their money to have the repair roads and state parks, so on and so forth. Same thing with federal. So again, federalism is power divided. It's power divided between a central government, which in this case would be the federal government, and then local governments, which would be the states. Okay. Now let's go a step further. If the state government is our central government, then the local governments would be obviously the county and city governments. Okay? So that is federalism. That's levels of government in the United States. Power divided. We'll do a little bit more on that as well, but that is definitely what those are. And that is where we'll stop for today.